Welcome back to the Relaxing Ghost channel here on YouTube. Today, it's got a bit of a news update type video for you guys. We're going to look back at a couple weeks ago. Impact Wrestling had I think Slammiversary pay-per-view. And many of the recent releases from WWE ended up back with TNA Impact Wrestling. So it looked like a big step forward for TNA Impact Wrestling, whatever we're calling them these days. So first up, let's get into the more recent stuff with MVP signing a multi-year deal with WWE. I'm liking what they're doing with MVP Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. Now, Monday Night Raw and SmackDown have not been the greatest television over the past couple of months, but there are some bright spots over their 5 hours of main roster programming. So, I'm liking the Drew McIntyre Championship reign. I'm all for an off season at this point in time. Going forward with shows was just a bad idea in my opinion. Lashley, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin, I can definitely see that being a main event stable, and they could definitely put some problems towards McIntyre's championship run. I want to see MVP more in a manager type role. I don't want to see him wrestling every week. If that's what he chooses to do, then that's up to him. But I want to see more of Shelton Benjamin. I want to see more of Lashley getting that main spotlight. Paul Heyman. Let's get to him real quick. Paul Heyman was recently fired. We talked about this, I think it was last year. So I don't even think it's been a year since Bischoff and Heyman were signed as executive producers or whatever of Raw and SmackDown. That didn't last long at all. Bischoff lasted a month or two, and Heyman kind of, I think, stood his ground a little bit. He didn't end up lasting at all. So Heyman's been demoted back to his stuff with Lesnar, which has been 0 appearances since WrestleMania. So there's been all kinds of talk and controversy between AJ Styles, Gallows, and Anderson, and their grievances towards Paul Heyman. And look, maybe Heyman wanted too much change out of these guys. And obviously he wasn't using Gallows and Anderson. AJ Styles is probably the best thing going in WWE. You know, they kind of signed Gallows and Anderson just to keep Styles happy, it seems, from what I'm putting together myself. But, you know, it looks like they're trying to do all of Heyman's wrongdoings there. And look, it's a kind of one-way street when it comes to WWE booking. We all know, whether it's Bischoff, Heyman, Pritchard, whoever's the head of creative for these shows, we all know whatever they pitch kind of goes through Mr. McMahon, and he approves everything that we see on those shows. So, do I think Heyman had a lot of influence? Not really, but, you know, to see him out of that position doesn't really surprise me in this day of WWE. So let's get to the Impact big signings they had here. We've seen a lot of returns, a lot of debuts for Impact Wrestling, which I'm actually really happy for. Number one on the bucket, Eric Young is back in Impact Wrestling. He says he chooses to be there. He doesn't need to be there. He chooses to be there. And he went on a big rant about WWE and their broken system. Um, I can kind of agree with that. What do I know about their booking system? You know, not too much, but from watching their product, I can definitely agree that their system is broken. He said he loved his time in NXT, and his stuff with the main roster was pretty much zero. You know, I can't remember much about Eric Young on Raw or SmackDown. You know, had a good debut, I think, on SmackDown, and it really fizzled out quick after that. We also seen Gallows and Anderson returning to Impact Wrestling, or I'm not sure if Anderson was there before, but for sure, Doc Gallows was there. So we got a form of the Bullet Club now in Impact. EC3, that's right, he is back in Impact Wrestling, and he's looking to break out of that WWE skin he had on for a few years, and kind of like Eric Young, EC3 just kind of sat and sat and sat and didn't do much of anything, which is really sad. You got, I can look at a guy like Eric Young and say, he could have been used a lot better. I look at EC3 and say, this guy could have been your world champion, and they really did nothing with him. Not even in NXT. At least he was in some big matches on some takeovers, but main roster, he really did squat. Heath Slater is now with Impact Wrestling. That was weird to see. And Kurt Hawkins, you see these cool photos going around now with Hawkins, Heath Slater, and all these new signings with Impact. It's really cool. And speaking of Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder now with AEW. That's right. He came out to make a save for Cody Rhodes, and I'm guessing he'll probably be challenging for the TNT title at some point. Maybe All Out would be a good match for him to challenge Cody. So it looks like Impact Wrestling is really going to do well. Let's get to this broken system of WWE. Because it seems like guys and gals really have a lot to say about WWE and their broken system, which is true. We see guys that are world champions in NXT. They're pretty much at the top of their game coming out of NXT. Huge debut either on Raw or SmackDown, whatever it might be. And then after that, it's really nothing for months and months. And then they might have a match here and there, and then it's more of nothing. And they're flown into these shows, they're stuck backstage for hours on end, and they're really doing a lot of nothing, which really sucks to hear. And it goes back to, the one-way street of just Mr. McMahon running the show and things like that. It is a broken system that needs to be changed quickly. Because guys and girls, they're gonna avoid going to WWE if they know they got slim chances of making it. You look at, like I said, EC3, he should have been the world champion. There's tons of guys that go through this process. There really needs to be some type of pecking order, whether you're a top tier, middle of the card, or tag, bottom of the card. You need to really work your way through these ranks, kind of like the Intercontinental Championship. That needs to be a stepping stone to the main event scene. It's like you're either brought in as a top guy, a tag team, or a squash guy. There's no going up. There's no kind of steps to progression in WWE. The same guys coming in and out all the time. And it really sucks to see. Because when I see a guy making a debut, I think, okay, what's next for him? Is he gonna do well? Is he gonna challenge for this title, that title? And it really never happens. I look at a guy like kind of Bobby Roode and Nakamura and say these two guys could have been world championship material by now. Especially a Bobby Roode and Nakamura for two good examples. Both former NXT champions, and Nakamura has fared decently on the main roster, but Bobby Roode has kind of been on and off booking these start and stop pushes we hear about. They just gotta stop. And if Bruce Pritchard has any kind of hold on Mr. McMahon, he's got to get into this. He's got to kind of have Mr. McMahon stop doing these start-stop pushes. Stop calling guys up with no plans to move forward with them. It's frustrating for the fans as well, but it's probably even more frustrating just to be called in and sat in catering all night. So right now they've probably released about 30 to 40 superstars over the past few months. You know, use what guys you have right now. Don't worry about calling up all these guys from NXT. I think they really relied on that a little bit too much in years past. You know, we got to make a big statement. It's the Monday night after WrestleMania. Who's going to make the big debut? They really need to stop doing that. You know, we've seen it time and time again, like I said, and it really led to a lot of nothing. So they really got to work on who they have. Put together a roster and say, okay, we got 6 guys here, 6 tag teams, 6 to 8 guys who could be in and out of the main event scene. And let's work on this before we bring more guys in. You could sign all the guys you want, but if you're not using them, it doesn't mean anything. It's just taking away opportunities from guys. Stop calling guys up with no plans. It has to stop somewhere. I mean, people talk about Adam Cole going to the main roster. I don't even want to see that. I don't want to see it unless he's going to be pushed immediately, which I doubt it will. Monday Night Raw, I feel like we'll get back to normal eventually, but let's kind of work on what we have right now. Maybe they just needed this to unload a few guys right now. We weren't using you anyways. Feel free to go sign with Impact, AEW. You know, it's not like we're using you. And that can be frustrating for a lot of guys. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. Do I really think Paul Heyman was to blame for all this? Probably not. You know, we all know how WWE creative can work these days, and it can be a mess at times. We hear the horror stories of rewriting Monday Night Raw. You know, hours before the show, during the show, they're still rewriting Raw. Pick 6 guys in NXT and say, okay, we're going to bring 4 onto Raw, we're going to put 2 on SmackDown, and we're going to build around these 6 guys, around, you know, what else we already have on Raw and SmackDown. And, you know, give yourself a year, give yourself 2 years. You know, by the time that year is up, this guy should either be an IC champion or a WWE Universal whatever champion. That's how I always think these things should work. You know, stop calling in the Goldbergs, the Lesnars. You know, Taker might be at the end of his road, but it really hurts your current stars calling in all these part-timers. So it's kind of an extended rant today, guys. I'm happy to see Impact Wrestling doing well. AEW is working with what they have. They're minimally adding to their roster. You know, it doesn't hurt for them to add a guy every month or so. It does hurt them to kind of bury them upon signing. Juice Robinson, I believe, or Lance Archer, sorry, and Brian Cage haven't really fared too well, but I'm expecting things to pick up for them. And, Heyman going back with Lesnar, no big deal to me. Can Bruce Pritchard kind of steer this ship in a positive direction going forward? I think it's really hard to tell right now. Given there's no real fans in the audience, it's hard to really judge and react to shows accordingly. Anyways, that was a lot to go through, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. And as always, we'll talk to you later. Peace.